You can see the gentleman sitting beside him.
And
he is none other than former British light heavyweight champion Joshua Buatsi, who is in studio with us this lunchtime, who returned after a year out and won last weekend. He beat Paul Stepien in, well, it wasn't particularly overwhelming fashion, that's fair to say, but you won all the same, Josh. You're welcome. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you, man. I don't think you guys would have me had I have lost, so I guess I can dwell on that and say, yeah, I won the fight. And as you said, wasn't my best performance, but after being out for a year, I think when I look at it now, getting the rounds in was quite good. But of course, you almost want the icing on the cake, which is to get rid of the man and to entertain.
I was going to ask you that question, Josh, actually. Like, you know, you said there about getting the rounds in. Was that more important, really, than going out there and sort of... Because we talked about this before the fight, and I said, look, this is all about Buatsi making a statement. We know how, you know, not just on the British Isles, but globally, how big this weight division is right now. With, you know, you got Beterbiev, haven't you? And you got Callum Smith, who's fighting Beterbiev next, and Dimitri Bivol. There's big names there for you globally. And you're talking about boxing for world titles. Was it about making a statement, or was you happy to get the 10 rounds?
Bit of both. You, of course, wanted to make the statement to say, look, I'm back. This is the new Buatsi on the scene, X, Y, and Z. But I think when I look back at it, in that fight, I demonstrated certain things that in the long run would be beneficial. We've seen me go out there to fight, to blast someone out in 2-3 rounds against the current champions and the guys coming up and the guys that are good. You may not necessarily blast them out, so you have to show something else. And I think I showed a different side of boxing, a different style of boxing that people are not familiar with. So I don't think the public warmed up to it nicely, but I think in the long run, I demonstrated this is in my arsenal. Against dangerous champions, you can't go out there and try and blast them out. You have to box a bit. You have to see how the first few rounds are. Then, if the opportunity comes, you take them out. But I mean,
you hadn't fought, Josh, since May 2022, so there was bound to be a bit of ring rust.
Yeah.
And what's that?
Yeah,
did you feel that?
Yeah, no, definitely. When I got in, I thought, okay, I haven't been here for a long time, but I do know at the end, my hand has to be raised. However it comes, that's the overall goal.
I think what people were disappointed with, and me specifically, was there was a level of intensity that people expected, because obviously there's a backstory, all the background noise about you leaving Matchroom, coming across to Ben Shalom because of the broadcast platform and the opportunities, and people spun out stories about who you wouldn't fight and who you didn't fight with Bivol and how you ducked these fights and whatever else. And we've had this discussion, so I'm not making that accusation. But it was a very pedestrian performance in terms of myself and Spencer spoke about it yesterday. I'm surprised you sit next to him because he's such a treacherous toad. The things he said about you yesterday would not leave you to sit next to him.
Can't even believe you'd say that.
Change your tune today.
Absolutely. But it kind of, because of this light heavyweight division, it's a really exciting division, right? With Anthony's performance against Beterbiev, Dan Aziz coming up down in the ranks, you in there, Bivol, but you know, Callum Smith making a world title fight. Then you've got behind you in the same stable, you've got Ben Whittaker and all the noise that goes with that, albeit 3 fights in. So there was this idea, and maybe it's an unrealistic expectation, and I listened to Virgil Hunter talking to you in the corner, that you were going to come in there and really set the place on fire, accepted ring rust, accepted that you might need a few rounds, but do the job. Yeah,
that's what I wanted to do, Simon. I really wanted to come out there and to light the place up, and the fans were very they were up there, they were screaming, shouting, and that's why when I say I was disappointed, is because I know there's an expectation, and I don't like to meet the expectations. I like to surpass it. You know what I mean? So that's why I say I was disappointed.
Did the opponent, because he didn't really come to fight, did he? He came to keep out of range.
So on top of that, though, Simon, let's think about it. He was scheduled to fight Callum Smith. A good opponent. So that
was 3 weeks prior to your fight, or 4 weeks prior to your fight, wasn't it?
So he'd been in camp for a long time preparing for a former world champion. So I'm not saying that he was a rubbish opponent. He wasn't. Listening to the commentary on that fight at the beginning, they said, oh, he could have chosen someone easier. He's a good opponent. I mean, he's not well known, and that's the thing about boxing and maybe sports in itself. If it's a known person, people can say, oh, he's good. But if he's good and they haven't heard of him, it's like, oh, we've never heard of him, he's rubbish. But it was a good opponent. But I will admit, I do.
What was Virgil's reaction? Because he seemed to be, I mean, you can't hear very much because he's outside of the ring, isn't he? Leaning his head through. But what was his? He seemed to want a very disciplined performance from you. Right? What was his reaction to it?
I think he looks more in the long term. Can you concentrate for those amount of rounds? Because in the big fights, you can't lose you can't lose concentration. Can you stick to what I'm telling you? What you're doing may be boring in your head, but can you stick to it? You need a jab to win a world championship fight. You do. This rounds, like I said at the beginning, you're going to have to jab. You're going to have to keep a man off. How disciplined can you be at doing it? And these are things that I've been doing in the gym. Of course, the intensity you spoke about and the what word should I use? The aggression that people usually associate with me is still there. And that's why I'm a bit disappointed that I didn't show that.
I think what was lacking, Josh, in your performance was that going through the gears, going through, that we've seen in the past, when you sort of tag your opponents or whatever and you step it up a level, you go through the gears and just sort of pick it up. It was a little bit sort of one pace through the 12 rounds. I think that's what the frustration was with the public, that they just felt that they was going to see something and you was going to be explosive.
It seems we're all
and we
giving
never
him a
got
hard
that.
time here, though, Spencer. He
Got the victory, but because
Jim,
Jim,
we want him up.
It's
we
where
set high
he's at.
standards.
It's where his position
high
is.
standards.
WBA number one. There's high expectations of Josh Buatsi because we know what he can do. We know what he's got in the locker, and we didn't see the performance that perhaps we have. And you're right in what you say, Simon. 12 months is a long time out of the ring, but he's still WBA number one. I suppose the question I want to ask you now is, where do you go from here? I mean, there's talk of Anthony Yard. Dan Aziz is number 2 in the WBA in the same camp, so that's a possible fight that could be made as well. What would you like?
Of course, it would be for the world title, and I expected this question. But besides the world title, which I think we can all admit are tied up.
Absolutely.
Fighting Smith. I don't know when Bivens fighting. So for me, it's about what other big name can I get that the public will say, oh, this is going to be a good one. Is it to have a British dust up or to find someone that's got high rankings? But again, as I said not too long ago, if the public know who you're fighting, then there's more interest in it and they're more excited for it. And they'll probably give more credit to that person. Whereas if you fight someone that's highly ranked, but they're not familiar with, then it's like, oh, who's this guy?
But who would you? I mean,
who would you like?
We were
The
talking
public
about because I said yesterday to Spencer, and I think you kind of concurred. The better the fighter, I think the better you'll see Josh Buatsi operate. He'll raise his game.
Yeah.
And we talked about Anthony Yard. I don't really like the fight Aziz for you at this moment in time in your career. I'd prefer you to go in.
Why is that, Simon?
I just don't know if it's the right trajectory for you.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that you're operating on a level where you need to go a certain way, and you're going to take Dan Aziz with you rather than go past him. Okay. So I'm not entirely sure there's benefit, but I can see more benefit for you in the eye of whether you like it or you don't. You've landed back on Sky for a reason because you didn't like the eyes on the prize at DAZN. So you want to be in the blue ribbon promoter that gets all the noise. So with that comes fights that people can recognise, right? And Yard, to me, and
coming off that good winning, good loss against Serbia, but
is a phenomenal fight.
Loss.
Yeah.
Is that a fight? Because you want to get out quickly, don't you? You want to be out in 2-3 months' time.
Yeah.
Is that a fight you can see on your immediate horizon?
For me, I've okayed it. Yeah. So it's more
whether Ben can
reach out to him, whether Ben can make it happen. But for me, I've said if that's what you think that's next, I'm all in. So again, from my side, it's clear. It's just whether the promoter has reached out to him and what his team is saying. Having come off a loss of Beterbiev, I don't know if he's going to have a warm-up fight or whether he's going to accept it.
Makes sense.
That's the thing. So it's not like I'm here specifically calling him out, but I am saying if that fight's proposed next, I'll definitely take it.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.